So hey guys, welcome back to my channel. The channel name is Fiction Star. So, the series name is What If Madara Married Kushina? So let's start the video. Many ninja knew how that Konoha was built as a place to stop the fighting between two families. These families were the children and descendants of the children of the Sage of the Six Paths. These families had a tremendous rivalry between them that lasted several generations. But this one village was formed to have a single place where the Uchiha and Senju could work, live and form ties with one another. The hope was with time they would grow closer and the fighting would come to an end. There was a secret that everyone seems to have forgotten. These two families made a pact that said if one of the clan was ever Hokage, the other clan would be given the position as well, to show that there was no ill will between them. The Senju and Uchiha clan heads knew of this pact, and they each agreed to honor their ancestors' wishes. When the first Hokage was named from the Senju clan, everyone in the Uchiha knew that the next Hokage would be one of their clan, so they trained to exhaustion, training and becoming stronger than their predecessors, because if a person was going to be Hokage, the very best of the clan would be called to defend the village and the people. To defend the village, a Hokage needed strength, wisdom, and a strong will. But this pact was broken when the next Hokage was chosen, and he was not an Uchiha. Two brothers felt that this would happen. These were Madara and his brother. They knew that the Senju were not to be trusted. So in the middle of the night they left, and said goodbye to the village hidden in the leaves forever, for they knew that they could not stand to see this injustice happen, and a tragedy would be born from this. One act, Madara and his brother went to live in an island surrounded by a strong sea currents. This was where they found the village hidden in the whirlpools. The two brothers were welcomed by the Uzumaki, and eventually each would do the one thing they never believed they would do. They each took an Uzumaki for their bride. Mito Uzumaki married Madara, and they both lived pretty happy lives. His brother married Risha Uzumaki. Both families eventually heard the news that made most couple very happy. They both were going to have children. Madara was happy to see the smiling face of his daughter Kushina, but because she was a direct descendant of the Uzumaki, she was given the name Uzumaki. Madara understood. The only thing that mattered to him was that his beloved wife was happy, and his child safe. Madara's brother did not have such a happy outcome. During childbirth there was a complication, and both Risha and her son died. It was only through Madara and his wife that kept his brother from ending his own life. But these two brothers were not unnoticed by the Hokage and his subordinates. In time the Second World War came to start. But when this happened, the village hidden in the whirlpool was attacked. Kushina, just a genin in service of the village, was sent away to their supposed ally of Konoha. Madara knew that she was strong enough to make the journey alone, but he and his brother both stayed behind to protect their home. If Konoha had sent the aid that was requested, the backup and ninja squads that was asked for the Yuzugakuru would have survived. But Konoha sent no aid. Kushina was a genin, but she was also the one to carry one of Yuzugakura's secrets. She was the second Jinchuriki of the nine-tailed fox. This lack of support was for the sheer purpose to case that young woman to come to Konoha for refuge. But who would have known that there she would find love in a blonde ninja by the name of Minato Namikaze, and that their child would change the fate of an entire village, if not the world. Time skip years later, the fourth Hokage had moved his wife and the wife of the third Hokage to a secret place. Kushina knew that the Kyuubi would take any chance to escape her prison. As Kushina began to go through the pains of childbirth, the thing she feared happened. The Kyuubi tried to break free, but what she did not count on was that Madara was there to see the birth of his only grandchild. As Naruto came into the world, the Kyuubi broke free and Madara made the only thing he could. Having learned all the sealing techniques of the Uzumaki, he sealed the Kyuubi into his newborn grandson, Naruto. Danzo appeared from the shadows and killed Kushina. This Yuzu bitch has served her purpose. We have no further need of her. The child will be our perfect weapon, and with it I will conquer the world. Madara, hearing this, was angry and all hell. Kushina had been bound to her mate by their very soul. When Kushina died, so did Minato. This man would use his grandson as a tool to do his bidding. You bastard! You killed my child and her husband, and you think I will let you use my grandson as a tool? You really think I would ever let you do that? Madara took his grandson in his hands and with a sad look on his face gave him a kiss on his forehead. Naruto, nothing would make me happier than to see you grow with my Kushina and her husband. I will never let this man use you, but he is Hokage and here he controls everyone as puppets. Minato was the only one to escape with his mind intact, so I will send you to a different dimension, a new reality, to protect you, but know this: Grandpa loves you very much. Be strong, my little grandson, and break free our clan from the curse of hate. you are my last hope. As Danzo tried to take baby Naruto, his grandfather took both of his eyes, and as a sacrifice he made a jutsu that no one would dare do. The trans-dimensional jutsu would cost him his very life. But nothing would stop Madara from protecting his grandson, and as the jutsu was made, little Naruto inherited his eyes. As little Naruto disappeared, Danzo demanded to Madara to tell him where his weapon was. Madara coughed some blood. Where you will never reach him. I die knowing that he will be safe. My precious grandchild will be free from you. These were the final words of Madara as he activated the seal on his body, and a giant explosion happened. Danzo and his subordinates died, burned to ashes. To the people that knew of the fourth Hokage's death, all wondered, what happened to the baby? Sometimes the world is full of tragedy. But sometimes fate takes a chance to correct the cause of these tragedies. Sometimes fate makes a gamble. But they always have a very large effect on the world. Everything was quiet in Konoha that morning. No one could imagine that anything weird or strange was going to happen, but if they only knew how wrong they were. At 6 a.m. a loud cry was heard from the most unlikely place in all the village. This crying, it appeared to come from the roof of the Hokage tower. Why would a baby be heard crying his heart out from that place? In the end it did not matter to most people. But it was giving the Sandaime Hokage a pounding headache. I guess drinking so much sake with two of your own students tends to give you a real nasty hangover. And the crying he was hearing was not making matters any better. Go and check where in all places is that crying coming from. Or so help me, I will find a way to make you feel what I feel right now. The guarding the office did not need to be told twice. What he found was astonishing. In the middle of the roof was a crying baby wearing nothing except a large piece of cloth bearing the Uchiha fan. Some sick person abandoned this child where the Hokage would be the first person to find him. What did you Torai? The did not know how to answer except simply placing the bundle on top of his desk. Mind telling me where did infant came from and why did you place him on my desk? The was simply smiling and answered, that baby was on the roof of this building, Hokage-sama. Hiruzen was taken back by the sheer cruelty of someone abandoning a child where there was no one to feed, clean or take care of him. But the thing that made him almost fall on out of his chair was when he saw the symbol that was on the cloth that the boy was wrapped in. There was no mistake about it. The symbol was the Uchiha clan symbol. The Uchiha fan? The question began to go around in his head. I don't think anyone would be foolish enough to abandon a child from a noble clan. It would be sheer suicide to even do this to make a child be part of a noble clan. The clan head would most certainly want the guilty party found and punished severely if they did. What do we do with a child who appears to be a member of the Uchiha noble clan? Do we dare place him in an orphanage? I know one thing for certain, if we did without discussing it with Kagami, he would be so angry that I might want to talk to some of the women Jiraiya was peeking at while in the hot springs. At least they would show some mercy. You would think that after the Second World War that there was nothing that could scare a Hokage of his caliber. That there was no situation that could possibly be so difficult that he would go into cold sweat just by thinking about the solution. A problem that made him think the solution was as pleasant as having his tongue pulled by Tsunade while she yells at him what was wrong with him. But there was a problem that big and that scary. For you see, as soon as he called Kagami to his office, he was sitting with a baby wrapped in what would be called a large piece of cloth bearing his clan symbol. And the Hokage had absolutely no explanation as to where, how and who this child even was. So let me get this straight, Hokage-sama. This infant was found on the roof of this very building wrapped with this very cloth, and you have no idea how he got there? Hiruzen simply nodded. And you are asking me what should we do with an unidentified, supposed Uchiha newborn? If you are even thinking of sending him to that god-awful orphanage, you better think again. I will not subject one of my clan to that place while I hold life in me. Kagami was more concerned than the Hokage had first imagined. At first he was thinking that the Uchiha clan head was going to be angry that someone could be doing all this to unload an unwanted child onto a clan with prestige and social standing. But with the outburst he was not angry about what it meant to the clan. He was angry at the possible mistreatment of one of his own. The questions that kept repeating in his mind was, why did Kagami believe right on the onset that this child was an Uchiha? Why did he not question it? Why did he not demand that they conduct some tests and find this child's parents? Kagami, could you please answer on question for me? Kagami, having calmed down a little, simply nodded. Why are you so sure that this child is a member of your clan? Kagami could not understand the reason for the question. The answer was quite obvious. The cloth was inlaid with a message. the clan symbol carried all the markings and signs of authenticity. The message was clear as day. This was the grandchild of Madara Uchiha. The message clearly stated it. Hokage-sama, am I to believe that you cannot read the message that is on that cloth? Hiruzen was taken back. What message? Kagami simply picked the cloth and he spread it evenly on the desk. As he pointed at the cloth, that message, it is as plain as day, maybe because you don't have our Dijitsu. Very well, let me and read it for you. To my honorable clan, my name might not be as welcomed, or liked as I once was, but I ask that you hold it not against this child. My name is Madara Uchiha, and this child is my beloved grandchild. For reasons beyond my control I had to leave my grandson, but I made certain that he would be at the most secure place, and easy for him to be found. If the current clan head finds him or is reading this, I humbly ask you to not abandon my grandson or blame him for his relation to me. I request that he be raised by a kind and caring family of our clan so that he might have a normal and happy childhood. His mother, my son-in-law, and more than likely myself will no longer exist in this plane of existence. But this will not allow my soul to rest in peace until my grandson is safe. I ask and beg you to tell the Hokage of this message and fulfill the final wish of a dying man. Madara Uchiha. The Hokage was amazed to such a long message on the cloth. Why write the message on the cloth and not a scroll? Kagami simply smiled. The message was written using an old Uchiha technique, the use of chakra and blood as ink. This message will not fade unless the cloth is burned by the flames of Amaterasu. This man calling himself Madara Uchiha must have really loved this child. Well, who do you think should raise the child? Kagami simply looked at the blood child and could not help but to feel this child was such a small, innocent baby. I believe that this child will be raised by me and my family. I will make certain that his grandfather's final wish is fulfilled. Plus he can be a godsend to my little girl. Motoko can get some early experience in the care of children. Hokage could only laugh. She is only 5 years old, and you are already trying to play matchmaker? What would you tell that controlling wife of yours? Kagami, hearing this, he too laughed. Hiruzen, I will simply tell her an old friend and his family died due to natural disaster in a village outside of Konoha, and that we had decided if that his grandson became an orphan I would take responsibility for him and raise him. As to being a matchmaker, who knows, they might see each other as siblings. But if this child grows to be a strong, kind young man, consider who his grandfather is. He will be strong, and if this child could eventually make my daughter happy, why wait? This child might be the savior that my clan needed all along. And so began the life of Naruto Uchiha in the head family. Would Motoko see him as a friend? A brother? Or something else? And would this stop the evil schemes of Fugaku's parents? Kagami did not get along with them so well. They would do anything and other to get power and get ahead. Only the heavens could know what was stored for Naruto. But if his smiling face was any indication, Kagami did not have much to fear. 1 month after the appearance of the baby on top of the Hokage tower, and the boy looked just like you would expect a healthy baby boy from the Uchiha clan, Naruto was sleeping peacefully in his crib, and a young Makoto looked at him smiling. He sure looks cute, don't you think so, Mom? Her mother was smiling too. He might be cute, but you should see how he eats. He drank 15 bottles of formula. The young baby was sleeping, but something made him frown every once in a while. Naruto had very good senses, and he was getting a smell that was making sleeping not so easy. You see, today was the day that the Uchiha practiced fire jutsu by collecting and burning the dry leaves that fell in their backyards. The smell of smoke was not so bad for most people, but to little Naruto was like he was surrounded by it. It was 7 o'clock in the morning when it happened. The smell was so bad for him that he simply began to cry, and it happened. He was being carried by Motoko's mother when she was passing a smoking pile of leaves, and after the strong cry there came a gust of wind out of nowhere and blew the smoke and leaves away. Kagami saw that since he was the one that burned the leaves in the first place. Well, either Kami did not like having a child near all that smoke, or little Naruto could not stand the smell and blew the leaves away with wind chakra. If he did, this kid is going to give the other clans competition when he gets in the academy, Kagami said as he smiled and laughed all the way to the kitchen. Little did he know that the leaves would eventually land on a Nara that was enjoying seeing the clouds. What else could happen to me now? How troublesome. Time skipped 2 years. Little Naruto, since having learned to walk, his parents began to train him, and now in his 2nd year on training, the child had no difficulty at all in walking, running, jumping, and performing small acrobatic moves. On an impulse they even tried to get him to use chakra through his limbs. which turned out to be a major success on one side and a source of constant worry for the matriarch of the Uchiha family. This child was completely obsessed with training. As soon as he began to learn to read, there was no book that the child would not want to read, well, all except subjects that his mother called either disturbing or plain dishonorable. Naruto was now wearing kids' cloths of a 2-year-old, all black and some parts of his shirt red. He never seemed to wear anything without the color red. It was his favorite color. His mother used to joke that maybe he would end up in the assassination division of Umbu one day because he liked the color so much. But there was something he liked to do even more. He loved to sneak around where Mikoto was and get her to relax and smile. Mikoto was sure that little Naruto had a bit of a crush on her, but the fact was that he knew him for 2 years now, and she used to joke around with her friends that if Naruto grew up really strong, kind and handsome, she would marry him. In the back of the house where Kagami and his family lived was a large library, and for some reason he used to joke that it was Naruto's favorite place to hang out. At age 2 he had read an impressive amount of books of all kinds. His reading went from physical training to meditation, from ninja skills to the skills of trades such as tailor, carpenter, builder, healer, and blacksmith. This was also included things like meditation, strategy, and history. From the books he read, he did the one thing no child should be able to. He designed a training schedule that would make most genin beg for mercy. He was sure that he needed to push himself to protect his family, and he would show no mercy to those that threatened his family. Naruto, however, was plagued with nightmares, especially of an old man wearing what looked like samurai armor. This old man would not leave him alone. It was him that really taught Naruto how to read, and every night it got worse. He showed him scenes of battle, missions that failed, and asked him why had they failed. He of course had no idea that this was Madara having left an imprint in his grandson's mind to make sure he was properly trained. The night came and the time he dreaded came, the time to sleep. What would the old man show him now? What horrible thing would he be told or shown? How long will he have to endure this, and most importantly, why? As he fell asleep, the old man smiled as he saw Naruto open his eyes in his dream. Why, you are shown this for you to become strong. Why must you endure so that your loved ones be safe? And how long will this go on? Until the time I see that you are strong enough to bear the burden of a family. Naruto, being a ninja might seem like playing to you now, but it is a very hard, dangerous, and sometimes unrewarding life. It is a life of service to others, and those others will appreciate the things you do, but not always. Now for today's lesson, there is a simple jutsu, one that will help you learn and do many other things. This jutsu is forbidden to regular ninja, but since you have continued to train, I am proud to say you can summon 1 a day, but if you use them often you might be able to summon 5 in 2 years. This jutsu I am going to teach you cannot teach it to anyone else, unless the Hokage approves. Now follow my hand signs. You learned hand signs last year and I know you will be able to keep up. Madara went through the signs of the Shadow Clone Jutsu, and Naruto did too. The only difference was that Naruto was just practicing the hand signs, he was not using any chakra. When Madara felt that he had the signs down, he told him to use chakra and use the jutsu. Naruto stood at the center of what looked like a dojo and went through the signs in rapid succession. Just as he finished the last sign, he shouted Shadow Clone Jutsu. Madara was expecting to see 2 Narutos, but to his surprise he saw 10 clones around Naruto. Madara began to laugh. Boy, with your chakra control as bad as it is, I would not be surprised if you fainted right now. Hey old man, if my chakra control is so bad, then tell me how to get better instead of taking pot shots at me. Madara could see that his grandson had some guts to be able to stand for himself. I was going to just teach you this jutsu, but in recognition of your bravery to speak your mind and desire to grow stronger, I will teach you something that will help. The dream changed to a forest. Try and do this. Coat the bottom of your feet with chakra and try and stick to this tree. But be warned that too little and you will fall, too much and you will damage the tree and fall. Madara said this as he walked up and down the tree. The reason you are in this forest is because all of you, that means all 11 of you, will do this exercise till you wake up, and then after on your own time. Naruto and the clones tried to do what they were told, but Naruto and the clones managed to walk 10 steps and all of them fell down. OW, that hurts. Madara simply told him to stand and land on his feet. For the rest of the night he kept at it, and finally was able to keep standing on the tree trunk. That is when he heard a loud ringing. Well, it is time to wake up. Wouldn't want to keep Mikoto waiting now, would we? As Naruto woke up, he remembered the jutsu and the tree walking exercise. but decided not to tell anyone out of fear that they might consider him something not normal. Kagami and the family had their breakfast. They talked about Mikoto's time in the first year at the academy. She also told them that there were some boys that been picking on her. This made Naruto very angry, so much so that the glass of water he was holding began to form bubbles. As if the water was boiling, Kagami looked at Naruto and smiled and simply said, "Naruto, as much as I appreciate a cup of tea, we do have a stove to boil the water. Take it easy or you might break that glass, and that hurts." The family had a quick laugh as he mentioned that. Well, all except Naruto, who at that moment was plotting his revenge. He needed to find a way to sneak into their classroom, and he needed to know where they sat at. A nice coating of glue and some nice sharp metal tips, and he would get even on those that bullied Mikoto. But he needed training, stealth from some books, metal tips from a blacksmith that threw them away for lack of quality, glue from his house, and how to get at the tree walking exercise. Yes, these fools would pay for bullying Mikoto, alright. As Mikoto left, Naruto gave her a small hug and she returned it. As she left, he went to the backyard yet again. When his mother asked, he simply told her that he was either going to play or read. Lies to be sure, but the matriarch believed Naruto, or so she made him think. Naruto looked around and saw that no one was there. Shadow clone jutsu, and 10 Narutos appeared. Okay, now on to Operation Payback. 5 work on the tree walking, 2 go gather the metal tips, and the rest practice the stealth by trying to find who it is that is bullying Mikoto. All the clones looked at him and asked, "What are you going to do, boss?" He smiled and simply did a hang signs. At the end of the sequence, he looked at the air, fire style, fireball jutsu. He looked at his clones, nothing much, just making a fire or two. Now get going. He did not know that his mother was looking at him and listened to everything he said. So my little Naruto is plotting to do some payback? He must mean the bullies that bother Mikoto. I sure hope that boy doesn't go overdo it. The clones managed to find out who it was that was bullying Mikoto. They were 3 boys from what looks of it the Hyuga clan. They did not bother to hide the bullying. So what if a brat sees them? Who was going to believe him? The clones looked through the window and saw where they sat all in a row right behind Mikoto. All the clones dispelled at the same time as each finished their assigned task. This was a mistake since Naruto tripped and fainted from all the memories coming back at the same time. When he woke up, he was on his bed. I need to dispel one at a time to give myself time to get used to it. His mother was agreeing with what her baby boy said. Can't have him fainting like that in an important mission, especially Operation Payback. She left some wood glue that would work for his little scheme out in the open. 10 days later was a day that lived in the minds of 3 very angry Hyuga for a long time. Naruto managed to use the tree walking exercise to get to the roof of the academy. An Anbu saw him and was following him from the shadows. As he reached the roof, he jumped from there to the door and walked very fast to where the class was seated. He waited for the teacher to tell them that physical training time was next and for everyone to go warm up. Not a single of the students noticed him. And as they left, he got to work, made 3 shadow clones. 1 to watch the door, the other 2 to help him coat the seats of the bullies with glue and place 6 metal tips on where their back touched the seats. Let's see those jerks try and bully my precious ones again after this. He walked up the wall and onto the ceiling and walked all the way to the roof. No one would expect a 2-year-old to do that. He simply sat down and waited. That Uchiha sure is easy to beat since she can't activate her precious Dijitsu. That will teach her that there is no clan better than a Hyuga. The Chunin instructor came in and told the class to sit down. That is when it happened. All 3 felt a sharp pain on their back. OW. Something bite me. The teacher wanted to make sure they were alright, told them to get up from their seats. But every time they tried they couldn't and would end up pushing against the back of the seat yet again. OW. I can't get up, teacher, and this really hurts. The teacher did not like to be told that they could not obey his order. He simply grabbed one of them and broke the student seat until he saw what was really happening. The glue, the tacks, and the placement of them a perfect booby trap. He was sure it was a fellow classmate. He asked and no one knew who could have done it. The 3 bullies would have to activate their Dijitsu just to make sure their seats were safe from now on. Mikoto simply walked towards the roof to eat her school lunch in peace. But there she found someone she was not expecting. Naruto, what are you doing on the roof? Naruto simply smiled a toothy grin and said, Oh, just wanted to keep you company while you ate. Mikoto kissed him on his forehead. That is very sweet of you, Naruto. As Naruto began doing his secret training, and the imprint of Madara not leaving the boy alone on a single night, the effects started to show. After the first year, he was stronger, quicker, smarter and more skilled than the average little boy his age. His parents could not be more surprised when a man decided to try and steal the purse of his mommy, was Naruto called her. He did snatch the item in question. His mother could have stopped him easily, but she figured that it would be wrong for a fully trained jounin to injure a civilian that was so desperate for money that he fall to do such low-handed and despicable things. Naruto, however, was not a ninja and not registered as such, but he simply was not going to let some crook try and do something like that to his mommy. He had been eating a set of dango that Makoto bought for him for helping her carry some really heavy supplies she needed for the next class day. In truth, the class were assigned into teams of 3, and they were supposed to get the item together. But the other kids in the teams were lazy. One wanted the home assignment to fail so he'd be moved to another team, and the other simply said that the task was too troublesome to even try. Naruto saw a sad Makoto at the schoolyard, and when he heard what the other two said, and that she was going to fail because of them, she simply offered to help. Motoko was surprised. I mean, he was supposed to help with the job by doing the work of 2 guys at least 5 years older. How was he supposed to do that? Shadow Clone Jutsu. 10 Naruto clone appeared from what looked like a smoke bomb going off. Well, this made the work that much easier, and since they helped her finish the work early, the teacher gave them a pair of free dango coupons. Having eaten 1 stick, he saw the creep take his mommy's purse. He simply took the dango stick and did yet another jutsu he learned in a dream. Shadow Kunai Jutsu was whispered as he did the hand signs and throw the dango stick. The second he did where there was 1 dango stick became 100, pinning the crook against the wall. He got up and looked at him with so much hate that the crook was thinking that this was a nightmare. Steal anything from my mommy again, and you will not live to see the next day. Got it? The crook was who it was and knew who his mom was. He simply nodded before fainting. He left the crook pinned to make sure he remembered that. Makoto was still seated eating her dango when Naruto casually walked in with the purse in hand. Honestly, Naruto, people are going to talk about something like that. You know that you are too young to be doing that? Naruto simply laughed and mentioned, who would believe them anyways? A boy not even for doing jutsu and pinning a crook like that. Makoto had to admit that he made sense. The civilians would never believe it because it would be too incredible. And the ninja would never acknowledge it because they would see that a little boy barely going to be 4 actually did a jutsu most genin would have trouble with. The ignorance of the civilians and to keep the reputation of the academy would keep this incident from spreading. Little did Naruto know that not all the ninja would ignore it. The Umbu commander watched the entire thing. He had even watched Naruto train. He simply could not wait for the little boy to get to Chunin so he could send the application to have him in Umbu. Sakumo Heikate knew talent when he saw it, and that little boy would eventually be a welcomed addition to the Umbu Corps. His mom, however, was not happy one bit. What would happen if Naruto missed and ended up killing a civilian? He might have good intentions, but the way to hell was paved in good intentions. Her son would be able to cope with the shock and stress of his first kill before he was even a student. No, her little boy had to be protected. If it mean not being so relaxed with pickpockets and purse snatchers, she would do it for her little boy. The life of Naruto was like that till he reached his 6th year, and not once did he deviate from the training and not once did he complain. The other Uchiha parents felt like the little boy was pushed by the sheer responsibility of being the son of the clan head. Others felt like the parents demanded too much from him since everyone in the clan considered them elites. But when the mother of the bully that picked on Makoto began to try and say that his mommy was an abusive parent, and that she was pushing Naruto so hard in hopes to kill him, that is when Naruto really began to show the fruits of his training. No one, and I mean no one, makes fun of my mom and gets away with it. That was the thing that was heard, and in a matter of seconds his eyes opened to see the 3 tomo in each eye. But he was really mad, and the thing that scared this foolish Hyuga woman more was that the way the eyes changed into the Magenkyu stage. How did a child have that Jujutsu evolve to that point? That was the last she said out loud. Naruto was so angry that the little boy yelled at the top of his lungs, "Tsukoi me!" In an instant the Hyuga was trapped in the Genjutsu. The little boy in a cold stare simply walked to the women. "You are in my world now. I control everything, and when I am done with you, hell will seem a vacation." The Hyuga knew that she was in for something bad. But how much could a little boy do? That is where a 100 kunai appeared and began to launch themselves at the woman. In a matter of seconds she was hit by all the kunai in places not deadly but painful. That was 3 seconds. You still have 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 57 seconds to go. She was crying and pleading. Naruto, I simply was trying to protect you. I think a little boy should enjoy their childhood. I meant no harm to you at all. I was only trying to make sure you are happy. Naruto looked at her. There are ways to do things, and then there are ways to do things. Inviting a person to tea and expressing in a civil manner your concerns about how someone is raising their kid is one. No parent is perfect, there is no manual to raise children. But no, you decided to humiliate my mother, like your good-for-nothing son. The lady knew nothing about the bullying her child had done. Naruto stopped the punishment just to tell her every single incident her child had been involved in. The pain, humiliation, abuse he inflicted on his fellow academy students. By the time he finished, the things he told her hurt 1,000 times worse than the kunai ever did, and as she cried she simply asked, "Do you not want to play Naruto? Do you not want to have friends? Do you think your childhood is normal?" He simply looked, "If you promise to take care of your child's bullying, and decide to talk to my mom in a respectful, civilized manner, but be warned that if you don't do something about the bullying, and decide to do something like this to my mother yourself, or with the help of someone else, you will be back here and no manner of pleading will stop the time that you have left. This is just suspended and give you a chance. Am I clear?" The woman felt like she was at torture and interrogation. She was in a great deal of pain, bleeding and crying, and between sobs she promised that she would do it, but for Naruto to forgive her. As the last word was spoken, the genjutsu broke and she did not have a mark on her. Tears were seen but no injury. Naruto looked at his mother after deactivating his dijutsu, and told her that his mommy was going to be alright. She cried and hugged Naruto. Little Naruto had tried to defend his mom and used a high-level genjutsu. To one side she was worried about her son, but deep down where she did not even notice she was extremely proud. This one incident did make it to the Hokage and the Umbu commander, and they both decided that if he could use the Magenkyu Sharingan then he needed to begin training in the academy immediately. In the academy he would learn what can and what should not be done, and to learn some limits in the use of force. This was to protect the civilians that, due to their ignorance, they might do something wrong against his family, and if someone injured his mother there would be payment in blood. They both would not be surprised. Naruto would defend his family to the point of actually killing someone, and with his dijutsu to that level he could kill a squad of genin faster than it takes them to say ramen. So was the day that Naruto was admitted to the academy, and Motoko still had a few more years to go. She was happy since Naruto would be going to the academy. They could walk to school, eat lunch, help him with class stuff and walk home together. Motoko was really happy about that. Well, to say that Naruto for the first week of class was bored was clear for every teacher to see. The thing that Naruto found most boring it was that it was the same thing over and over again. History first, theory on ninja abilities for the guys' health class, and ethics, and birth control and STD prevention practices. For the girls, seduction, cooking, dancing, and ethics, and of course birth control and STD prevention practices. To Naruto, they always felt like why divide the class at all? Guys needed to learn how to cook, dance, and especially to notice when someone was trying to seduce them for their own benefit. Ethics were the same thing all over. Birth control and STD prevention, why separate the two? Again, they both needed to know this stuff. Just cutting the time it took the two to divide would save a ton of time. Now what they did not teach is the things that Naruto really made him upset. How long till he was going to get a basic aid class? Weapon maintenance? Field cleaning and field survival skills? Not for the foreseeable future it seems. So the same things repeated 100 times each and every single day. One of his teachers even tried to hit him on the head with an eraser because he had fallen asleep. That how dull it was. But there was one thing that was fun, taijutsu spar, and weapon accuracy practice. He really had to try hard not to maim or permanently injure someone. He could throw shuriken and kunai with his eyes closed, but again had to fake it, had to miss some targets intentionally, did not want to appear to be a show-off. Motoko did not agree on that point. If he was that good he should show it. If they lack physical training, they students would get much worse from the crooks and enemies they were going to face. She said during a lunch break a good beating between fellow students was a much-needed wake-up call. The more Mikoto talked with Naruto, the more she ended up thinking of her misfortune. If only Naruto was in the same class as her, she wouldn't have to be apart from him all the time they were in shared classes. Naruto was getting pretty sick of the way the academy was doing things. In secret he even began to write a list on the modifications he would make to the classes and the way the academy worked. He got the info he needed from books, and from the way Mikoto talked about her own classes, Mikoto did not get her wish in aspect. It turned out that instead of her helping him with his classes, he ended up tutoring her on hers. She joked that if he understood her classes, why not take the final exams for each year and skip a few grades? He had to admit that was not such a bad idea. The teachers would sooner cross-dress than allow it, but it was a good idea. At the second year, seeing Mikoto closer to the final year and the time where she would be in another team away from him made him decide he needed a way to be allowed to get into her genin team. So he decided to make a bet with the Hokage. He simply decided to put all the changes that he would do to the academy, and if they worked he won and would be allowed to take the final exams for as many classes as he would pass. If he really wanted to, he could probably graduate in 2 weeks. But if he lost, he would never complain about the academy, and be really happy to be in any team the teachers and the Hokage decided. Now Naruto spent an entire evening making sure all the papers were clear, that all changes were easy to understood, and most importantly that his appointment with the Hokage was set and that the assistant would not dismiss it as a kid seeking attention. The Hokage looked at his appointment schedule and saw one name that he did not imagine to see so early in the morning: Naruto Uchiha. Proposal of changes to the academy. What would a little boy know about the things wrong about the academy? Well, he did make the appointment through the proper channels and with the right paperwork. His parents must be helping him. On time and in an appropriate way, Naruto was present to his appointment. He mentioned all the potential wasted time by separating the classes. How such wasted material could be better used in materials that were needed but not taught, medical aid, and field skills in class, and expand weapon usage to include more weapons for the students to see what kind of weapon would suit their particular way of fighting. Teamwork and non-verbal communication also were added. The D-rank missions could be used for that very purpose as practice. When asked who would supervise, he simply said that the village had a good number of retired ninja that would love to help with that. The new generation would learn from the experienced older generation, making each generation better. And last but not least, why hear the history of the Sadaime Hokage when they had the man alive and kicking to give a guest lecture? He was called the professor for a reason, right? The Hokage simply told him that he would love to, but with all the paperwork he did not have any time. That is when he simply said, "Why don't you use the shadow clone jutsu? The shadow clones can handle teaching or doing the paperwork." He told him that needed to know what the paperwork said. The one that casts the jutsu learn everything the shadow clone does. So what's the problem? At this point he could not believe it. All this time he had tried to beat the monster, the bane of all Hokage, called paperwork. And a child in his first year in the academy pretty much delivered the perfect weapon to kill said monster. Naruto had to watch as a crying Hokage slammed his head on the desk and called himself stupid each time he did it. Little did he know that in heaven all the previous Kage were doing exactly the same thing with the wall. Kami was laughing her head off. "So Naruto, for the changes I will study them and see if they can be tested next year, and for the secret mission of destroying the Kage Bane, your payment is one wish. If it is within my power I will grant it." Naruto simply smiled and answered, "Can I take the final exams for a few grades and be placed with a class that I can learn something new?" The Hokage did not see a reason why not. I mean, if he passed he would already know the material. If he did not, the teacher would know what he lacked. It was a win-win. So he agreed to have these tests after each class day, 3 per week at least as time allowed. Mikoto was very happy to hear that. Her classmates were not, and especially the teachers. The teachers could not disobey the Hokage. They had to give the Uchiha brat a chance to show off and make them all look foolish. But they were not going to make it easy. For starters, the teacher of each grade made a written test that they would have a hard time passing given the time limit they imposed. And for physical tests, the physical exams that would make normal chunin cry for their mamas. If the kid passes, we will be laughed at by everyone in the village. They had to make a test to really show this Naruto his place in the world and that he did not knew what as much as he believed he did. This would save his life and their honor. The next class was as dull and boring as ever. Then came the time Naruto really wanted. The test. He had 30 minutes to answer 100 questions and not a one was multiple choice. He sat down and in 10 minutes he answered every single question, checked them and walked to the teacher and said, "Done." The next part was the physical skills test. He had to hit moving targets while blindfolded with a single kunai and a single shuriken. With the shadow shuriken and shadow kunai jutsus he cleared the targets in a second. 10 out of 10. Even the teacher did not know that could be done so quickly. So he told Naruto to sit down so he could read the written test. After 5 minutes the teacher was upset. Not a single wrong answer. taijutsu he had to fight against the chunin, and the teacher expected the kid to be afraid. The chunin threw everything he knew at the kid: evade, evade, counter, evade, and one final throw, and the chunin was out cold. He was happy to tell Makoto that he passed to the final exam and advanced 1 grade. It would take longer because the teacher really did not want him to pass, so they did limit his final exam chances to 3A, Wednesday, and Friday. Today was Monday, so he had to sit in quiet and respectful for an entire day for 3rd grade. Naruto simply smiled at her, and said he could use the time to take a nap and maybe learn a new jutsu. Makoto did not understand why he would say that. Learn a jutsu while you sleep? In his dreams, the imprint of his dead grandfather kept teaching him katan jutsu exercises, just like when he taught him how to awaken his Sharingan before he was even 4 years old, and how he used the Tsukuyomi to force him to attack and kill the person he loved the most, Makoto, and then he forced him to kill his parents. The shock and grief of killing the people he cared for most awakened his Magenkyu Sharingan. At age 5 he had begun his training in the use of this evolved Dijitsu after learning that he would not go blind as most would. He simply asked his grandfather if he could teach him some Futon Jutsu as well. Being the imprint of a loving grandfather, he did. But Naruto would always want to learn more. If his teachers knew that the supposed show-off had mastered all the katan control exercises, they would begin to take him more seriously. The next day he would be introduced to a new classroom, the students being shocked to see a younger boy as their new classmate. But if they only knew that it was temporary. A new subject was introduced, but with 150 shadow clones at his disposal he was not worried one bit. He had the subject learned by dinner time. The new teacher heard what he had done before, and kept the same mindset, put the show-off in his place. The only sad thing was that the classmates did get used to him the first day. Little did they know that was the only time that they would share a classroom again. The same thing happened the next day after class. A teacher that was sure the punk would fail. A student proving him how wrong he was. Perfect scores, and yet another chunin in the hospital. This situation was something that the Hokage could not believe. In a single week Naruto jumped the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, and now was on the 6th where he finally did not pass the test. Little did he know that he did that on purpose, just to be in the same class as Makoto. If you could look into Makoto's mind, it should be Makoto was jumping around using the V sign and smiling like she just won the lottery. Her classmate were not happy at all. A kid 5 years younger was now sitting in their classroom as a classmate. When it came to taijutsu, he proved to them that he indeed deserved to be there. The bullies in his class all said that they would fight him together after class. Well, one thing can be said about Konoha General Hospital: they do have plenty of beds. And thanks to Naruto, the doctors and nurses got plenty of practice. He never held back anymore. If he was like this with allies, Kami have mercy on his enemies. It was the 2nd month since Naruto came to be in Makoto's class. To her it was a good sign that Naruto was with her. To some of the girls in class it was a time that they tease her with calling the two Uchiha the unofficial couple of their class. The guys wanted a shot at Naruto to prove to the show-off that one of them should be getting all the affection from the cutest girl in class. When Makoto told him that if Naruto could share his training schedule and methods with Makoto, the entire class nearly fell out of their seats. If Motoko got as strong as Naruto, why even bother telling them about the top positions in class would be decided after their final year. If she did follow his training, then it could be decided right now. There would be Naruto and Makoto, no doubt about it. But to the horror of the entire class, their teacher heard that and decided that the entire class should try a similar training regiment. They did not walk home after class since then. They practically crawled home. Makoto looked at Naruto and asked him day and night to help her awaken her Sharingan. For an entire week, she asked him non-stop for him to help her. It was then that Kagami told Naruto that to have some peace at home. Please, Naruto, help her so that I can have some quiet in here, please. His wife was laughing her head off when she saw her husband do that. Using the Tsukuyomi Genjutsu, he did just that. She learned to activate and deactivate her Genjutsu. She was happy to be able to use it, but not happy that it was currently at 1 tomo in each eye. While Naruto, who was younger, had a fully mature Dijitsu. If you train and work really hard, you will make it. Naruto kept showing his very best during class and in practice. But there was one thing he would always fail at, no matter how many times it happened. That was when someone, it did not matter who, where, or even when, if you picked on Makoto, there would be Naruto to make the person pay. And it usually ended with one more bully, or one more pervert in the hospital for various wounds, be they cuts, burns, or even broken bones. If you were a student in that class and wanted to live long enough to graduate, the thing you must never do is bully Mikoto Uchiha. There was one idiot that decided to peek at Mikoto while she was in the public hot springs. Well, Naruto prepared a specially nasty punishment. He trapped the idiot in a genjutsu when 30 brawny guys wearing speedos were madly in love with him. The Hokage himself thought that was so cruel that when he told the chief of torture and interrogation about it, he simply began to laugh. He has a bright future in this department if we ever manages to recruit him. I would recruit him right now, but I have to wait till he is Chunin first, darn. The Sennin Orochimaru strangely was actually in a very good mood for several weeks after that happened. Well, as for Mikoto, she finally asked why Naruto would always protect her. He simply smiled and told her that she was precious to him. Nobody will mess with the people he considered precious, and if they did they would see hell while still living. Kagami was impressed with what he said. Now that was a loyal person, his mother being in a rather teasing mood. She just said that maybe Naruto was in love with Mikoto. This made both Mikoto and Naruto blush so much you would expect smoke to come from their heads. The last 2 years came and went, and because that dream training, by the time he graduated he had mastered his katana affinity, shadow clones, taijutsu and kenjutsu. The only thing he did not master was his Futon affinity, but he was very proficient at it. Mikoto had mastered her katana and Raiten ninjutsu. For weapons she mastered the scythe and the gunbai. Naruto favored the katana and the double trench knives. But the thing was, Naruto always seemed to be having chats and played shogi with the Umbu and their commander. Why would the Umbu and their commander play shogi with his on their free time, you ask? Simple. They couldn't beat him. As of today, Naruto Uchiha is the unofficial shogi champion in the Umbu Shogi Divisional Tournament. He has won that championship 3 times in a row. One Umbu won it using what he called a move that the man called the Naruto Gambit. The only clan that decided to never participate on the tournament again was the Nara clan. They believed that the chances of them winning it while Naruto played in it were so small that the clan had said, and I quote, "It would just be too troublesome to even participate." Some of the ninja council wanted to ask the Hokage why not name Naruto for some recognition officially, instead of always his accomplishments being unofficial and basically secret. He simply said that Naruto played shogi for the fun, and that everything he accomplishes is just training. He wanted no recognition, and if he ever was recognized for anything, it was his earnest desire to protect the people precious to him. As for the bully from the Hyuga family, he suffered a tragic incident that made it impossible to graduate. I mean, how can someone do the duties of a genin if the person was blind? Eye transplants were not possible. The damage to the very nerves that connect to his eyes were, as some would say, damaged beyond possible treatment. His mother screamed that Naruto must have done it, that he sought revenge on what her son did to little Mikoto. The truth of the matter was that he was addicted to fumes from a rather unusual paint. The paint was even discontinued due to the toxicity of the fumes. But when smells it caused hallucinations, and increased release of endorphins. The woman never got over this fact, and never admitted that her son was addicted to the paint she once used to paint pictures as a hobby. The Uchiha also had a few problems. A chunin by the name of Fugaku had made several petitions to the clan head that to have an arranged marriage contract drawn. The marriage would be between himself and Mikoto, the daughter of the clan head. Fugaku was very specific that he wanted to marry her as soon as she was of chunin rank. Naruto was present when he made the request. He interrupted Fugaku, and told him that Mikoto would never be forced to marry anyone against her will, and if they tried he would call for a duel to the death on the person who tried. He was basically saying that someone would force Mikoto into a marriage over his cold dead corpse. Mikoto was so surprised by his reaction. Why would Naruto do that? Why would he put his life on the line like that? He grew up with her, but was it possible for Naruto to actually have romantic feelings for her? The questions were never asked to Naruto, and therefore they went without answers. 2 years later, the academy graduated the class that had the 2 top students to earn perfect scores in all tests. The top kunoichi was none other than Mikoto Uchiha. But the thing that shocked everyone was that Naruto Uchiha was called the top ninja student. A very upset Choza Akimichi and Inoichi Yamanaka were seen as the 2 runner-ups. In the history of the academy, there had never been a student that graduated so young from the academy. But the question that was on all the minds of the jounin and the teachers was who would be the dead last? It turned out that the dead last was none other than Koji Inuzuka. The kid spent so much time napping that he actually had to do remedial attendance classes to even graduate. If the formula to put teams together held true, the team would be Mikoto, Naruto and Koji, but who would be the brave jounin to want the position of teacher of this group? The Umbu commander specifically asked for leave from his post to be the jounin teacher of this team. Sakumo Hekate took a leave from the position he loved just so he would teach this team. That was not surprising, maybe the fact that Orochimaru wanted to have young Naruto as his apprentice. But he told him that he would never abandon Mitoko. Orochimaru understood and was very happy to hear that it was for something as important as loyalty to his family.